Okay, go find my drink then. Hey y'all, I'm trying to see do this look right on me. Bye, dang, look. You slapped her. Oh, live, can you call my drink?
Your drink is in the car.
No, it ain't.
April 7th, 2022. It was just after 12:25 p.m. when dispatchers at the Copperas Cove Police Department received a 911 call. At first, it seemed routine, but within seconds, the line went silent. No explanation, no voice. Just the kind of chilling pause that tells seasoned operators something is very, very wrong. An officer was sent to the address on Hobby Road, a quiet residential street where nothing ever made headlines. When he arrived, the front door was locked. A man's voice from inside told him to wait. But almost immediately, the silence was broken by the sound of screaming. The officer forced the door open. In that split second, gunfire erupted. Bullets tore through the air, shrapnel striking the officer in the leg. Inside, a woman lay motionless near the doorway. She was later identified as 33-year-old Destiny Jasmine Carey. Just feet away, a man was on the floor with gunshot wounds of his own. By the time backup and paramedics arrived, Destiny's life could not be saved. But how did a nurse, a mother of 6, a grandmother, and a rising businesswoman, a woman described as the light of her family, end up dead inside her own home in the middle of the day? And why was the man she had loved and built a life with immediately considered the prime suspect? Destiny deserves to be remembered. Please like this video, subscribe for more stories, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and share this so her name and her story continue to be heard everywhere. And to her family, her children, her grandchild, and her friends, we send our deepest condolences. May her memory always be a blessing. To understand the weight of that April day, we have to first look at who Destiny Jasmine Carey truly was. She was only 33 years old. Yet she carried responsibilities that spoke volumes about her character. She was a mother of 6 children, raising them with determination and love, making sure they had the best she could provide. To her family, she wasn't just the person who kept the household together. She was their joy. They remembered her laugh, the kind that could light up a room, and how she was always welcoming, always ready to help anyone who needed it. Destiny was a woman with remarkable drive. She worked as a nurse, but she also created a path for herself in business. She was the proud owner of High Saturday Boutique in Killeen, Texas, a clothing and shoe shop that reflected her creativity and ambition. Locals knew her for her designs and her sense of style, and she wasn't stopping there. She was preparing to expand and open a 3rd location in Dallas. She had managed to turn her vision into reality, balancing long hours and sacrifices with the dream of giving her children stability and pride in what their mother was building. Her life wasn't only about work. She loved to go out, to enjoy herself, to find moments of happiness amid all the responsibilities. She showed up for her family and her community, extending her hand to others, helping with their children, their businesses, and their struggles. Her daughter described her best. "My mom was a hard-working woman who took care of all 6 of us. She was everything. She always wanted to help others out with their kids, their businesses, and much more. She was always welcoming." At just 33, Destiny carried not only the title of mother, but also of grandmother. Even with so much already on her shoulders, she poured love into her grandchild as well. That was who she was, someone who gave endlessly, who invested in the future of her family with every ounce of energy she had. Destiny's story was one of progress, ambition, and love for her family. She was building a life, expanding her dreams, and anchoring 3 generations. And that is what makes what happened on April 7th so devastating. In a matter of moments, her laughter, her warmth, and her vision for the future were silenced. Kevin Frazier was 37 years old, a former U.S. Army Staff Sergeant who served from 2004 until 2016. By the time of April 2022, he was known less for his years in uniform and more as the man often seen at Destiny's side. On Facebook Lives, the two appeared affectionate, laughing and speaking about their relationship. In one clip, Kevin declared his love for her while she smiled, and in another, Destiny proudly reminded viewers they had been together for 6 years, still going strong. The image they shared online was one of stability, a couple that seemed bonded by time and commitment. Friends and followers saw them go out together, share playful banter, and present themselves as a family unit, posting videos that felt romantic and warm. But not everything shown on camera matched the reality off-screen. In the same feeds where they once appeared carefree, there were also hints of difficulty. Just hours before she died, Destiny posted a short but telling message. "One thing I know is that you all need to stop letting people have so much power over you. You should not be on the same subject on day 2. It stood out because it was unlike her usual updates. For someone who rarely shared thoughts of that nature, the words seemed heavy, carrying more than they revealed. It created a striking contrast. On one side, there was the polished image, two people presenting themselves as deeply connected, showing affection publicly, and reminding others of their longevity as a couple. On the other, there was a cryptic statement that seemed to point toward tension and control. That post, written on the very morning of April 7th, 2022, now reads like a glimpse into a private struggle that outsiders could never have known from the smiling videos and lighthearted moments. And within hours, the image of a happy relationship would collapse under the weight of devastating violence. On the morning of April 7th, 2022, Destiny Carey shared what would become her final post on Facebook. It wasn't about her boutique, her children, or the joys of her busy life. Instead, it carried a warning tone, saying, "One thing I know is that you all need to stop letting people have so much power over you. You should not be on the same subject on day 2. It was short, unusual for her, and hours later, it would take on a chilling weight. Just after 12:25 p.m., Copperas Cove police dispatchers received a 911 call from a residence on Hobby Road. The call lasted only a few seconds before it went silent. No voice to explain what was wrong, no chance for questions, just a sudden disconnect. Standard procedure meant an officer was immediately dispatched to check on the address. When the officer arrived at the house, he approached the front door and knocked, identifying himself. From inside, he heard a male voice telling him to wait. The pause was brief. Within moments, screaming rang out from inside the residence. That was enough to escalate his response. The officer forced his way into the home. As the door gave way, chaos unfolded in an instant. Gunfire erupted from inside. The officer was struck in the leg by shrapnel as bullets ricocheted. Through the smoke and confusion, he saw a woman lying on the ground near the entryway, unresponsive. She was later identified as 33-year-old Destiny Jasmine Carey. In the living room, a man lay injured. It was Kevin Frazier, suffering from gunshot wounds to his torso. Despite being wounded himself, the officer moved quickly to restrain him, securing him in handcuffs before turning his attention back to Destiny. With paramedics still en route, the officer attempted to revive her, trying to hold on to whatever chance there might have been. Minutes later, emergency medical crews arrived and took over, but despite their efforts, Destiny could not be saved. She was pronounced dead inside her own home, her life cut short in the middle of a Thursday afternoon. Kevin Frazier, still alive, was transported under guard to Carl R. Darnall Army Medical Center at Fort Hood, where he received treatment for his injuries before being taken into custody. In the hours that followed the shooting on Hobby Road, Copperas Cove police secured the scene and began the slow process of piecing together what had just unfolded. The following day, April 8, 2022, the the department released an official statement confirming the identity of the victim as 33-year-old Destiny Jasmine Carey. For her family, friends, and community, the confirmation was devastating, though many already knew her name. What had been rumors and grief shared on social media was now public fact, sealed in an official release. Meanwhile, investigators turned their focus to the only other person inside that home, Kevin Frazier. After being transported to Carl R. Darnall Army Medical Center for treatment of his wounds, he was questioned for the first time by detectives. Later, once released into custody and booked, he was questioned again at the Copperas Cove Police Department. According to reports, his accounts of what happened inside that house were not consistent. For investigators, that inconsistency added another layer of urgency and suspicion. The case moved quickly into the legal system. Within days, Frazier was arraigned before Coryell County Justice of the Peace Bill Price. 2 charges were read against him: murder for the death of Destiny Carey and aggravated assault against a public servant for the officer struck by shrapnel during the exchange of gunfire. Judge Price set bond at $1 million for the murder charge and $750,000 for the assault charge. Together, the total bond stood at $1.75 million. Court records would later reflect adjustments as the case moved forward, but the severity of the initial bond amounts left no doubt about the weight of the charges. With Kevin Frazier now formally accused, the story shifted from the chaos of the scene to the slow, meticulous work of the justice process. Detectives began reviewing evidence, combing through statements, and preparing a case that would eventually move into the district courts. For the community, the reality had set in. A woman described as hardworking, fun, and devoted to her family was gone, and the man once seen beside her in public as her partner was now the central figure in a homicide case. In the days after Destiny's death, the grief that spread through Copperas Cove and Killeen was immediate and visible. Outside of her boutique on West Veterans Memorial Boulevard, people gathered, leaving flowers, candles, and handwritten notes. The front of High Saturday Boutique, a place that had once been filled with color, fashion, and laughter, was now transformed into a memorial site, a quiet reflection of how deeply she had touched those around her. For the community, it wasn't just a business that had lost its owner. It was a place built from her vision, her creativity, and her determination to rise. Her daughter spoke publicly, her words raw with loss. She described her mother as a hard-working woman who took care of all 6 of us. She explained that Destiny had been a nurse, that she owned 2 businesses already in Killeen, and that she was preparing to open a 3rd in Dallas. With each word, she painted a picture of a woman who lived for her family, who poured every ounce of her strength into giving her children stability and opportunity. She added that her mother was a joyful person, someone whose laugh lit up a room, someone who welcomed others and offered help whenever she could. In the voice of her daughter, it was clear that Destiny's life was not defined by her end, but by the love and resilience that had carried her through every challenge. Local coverage captured the same story. Anchors from KCEN described her as a rising entrepreneur in Central Texas, a woman who had created something lasting and was on the verge of expanding. Reporters from KWTX stood outside her shop, speaking to other small business owners who described the shock of losing someone so embedded in their community. They called her determined, ambitious, and full of energy, the kind of person whose absence would not just be felt by her children, but by an entire city. For those who knew her through her business, Destiny represented more than fashion. She represented the possibility of building something from the ground up, of creating success while balancing the heavy responsibilities of motherhood and even grandmotherhood. For her family, she was the anchor. For her customers, she was inspiration. For her community, she was proof that hard work could create change. The memorial outside her boutique stood as a symbol of how widely she had been loved. Her family's words, the tributes of local business owners, and the coverage from news outlets all confirmed what her children already knew. Destiny Carey was the light of their lives and a name her community would not forget. After the shock of Destiny's death came the long and difficult path through the courts. The case against Kevin Frazier was assigned to the 440th Judicial District Court in Coryell County, Texas, where it was formally divided into two separate felony cases. The first, filed under case number 22-27447, charged him with murder for the death of Destiny Carey. The second, case number 22-27448, charged him with aggravated assault against a public servant for the injuries caused to the officer struck by shrapnel during the incident. Both cases carried serious consequences, and both have moved slowly through the court system since 2022. Court records show that pre-trial hearings have been scheduled and rescheduled repeatedly. In February 2025, the murder case appeared on the docket for a pre-trial hearing. The following month, on March 31, 2025, both cases were listed again for scheduling orders, bond reviews, and procedural matters before Judge Grant Kinsey. These hearings are not trials themselves, but are critical steps in how felony cases progress in Texas. They involve discussions about evidence, motions filed by defense attorneys, the prosecution's responses, and sometimes adjustments to bond conditions. As of August 2025, there has been no jury trial, no plea entered, and no final verdict. Destiny Carey's death was not only a personal tragedy for her family and community, it became part of a much larger story about violence against women in Texas. In its 2022 Honoring Texas Victims report, the Texas Council on Family Violence documented the lives of women killed that year by intimate partners. Destiny's name is included in that record, and Kevin Frazier is identified in the advocacy report as her ex-husband. The council's research paints a painful picture. In 2022 alone, more than 200 women in Texas lost their lives to domestic violence. Behind each of those numbers is a family forever changed. Children left without mothers, parents forced to bury their daughters, communities robbed of women who should have had decades more life ahead of them. Destiny's name is spoken not just by her children and her community, but now by advocates across the state who use her story to highlight the ongoing crisis of domestic violence in Texas. It is a reminder that what happened on Hobby Road was not only about one home in Copperas Cove, but about a statewide epidemic that continues to take lives. At just 33 years old, Destiny Jasmine Carey was a woman with so much life still ahead of her. She was a nurse, an entrepreneur, the proud owner of a boutique that she had grown from the ground up, and a woman preparing to expand her vision even further. She was a mother raising 6 children, already a grandmother, and described by her loved ones as someone who gave her all to family, community, and business. In every role she carried, she brought warmth, determination, and laughter that people say could fill a room. Her death on April 7, 2022, left a wound that has not healed. The legal process continues in Coryell County, with pretrial hearings still unfolding, and her family waiting year after year for closure. Justice, at least in a courtroom, remains unfinished. And while the system moves at its deliberate pace, those who loved her are forced to live every day with the absence of the woman they called mom, daughter, sister, and friend. But Destiny's story cannot be measured only by the violence that ended her life. Her legacy is in her children and grandchild, in the boutique she built with her own hands, and in the way she supported others in her community. As her daughter said, she was everything. Always welcoming, always wanted to help others. Her life was about joy, about hard work, and about family, not just about the crime that cut it short. Her story is also a reminder. Advocacy groups have shown that too many women in Texas lose their lives in acts of domestic violence each year. Destiny's name now stands among them. It highlights the urgent need to recognize red flags, to take cries for help seriously, and to create systems that protect survivors before tragedy strikes. For viewers, the lesson is not only about remembering her, but also about demanding timely justice and stronger protections for those still living with the threat of abuse. If this case touched you, please share this video so her story isn't forgotten. Subscribe to join me in shining a light on stories like Destiny Carey's, because every name deserves to be remembered.